the main thing I want to talk about is the combat. The combat that has been revealed. There's been a lot of stuff that was shown in the trailer already, but there's a lot more stuff that came out on the Japanese website for this whole thing. And I want to kind of start out by saying that Xenoblade Chronicles typically works like an MMO, and it has very similar things. Like, if you have Final Fantasy XIV, you're kind of familiar with how Xenoblade plays, and that's mainly the thing here. And I think what they're planning on doing is focusing more on the positioning aspect of fights, because with all this stuff that I've seen being added to the systems, it definitely plays a lot more on positioning and choosing the classes correctly. In this case, we can start off looking at a few things. We've got quite a few details over on the main menu. We have the Arts Center in the bottom right-hand corner with the whole ground beat, sword strike, edge thrust, and overclock buster for our main protagonist Noah, as well as low wing, wide slash, and interlink arts that seem to be over on the left-hand side, which I personally think is for Neo, because of the whole interlink mechanics that are coming through in the game. This is generally taking a very similar beat towards Xenoblade 2, of which you essentially had things like attack canceling and special moves being able to be launched after attacks for increased damage. So I think they're going to be taking some of that from Xenoblade 2, but also keeping more of the slower paced combat for Xenoblade 1, trying to mix the two into a comfortable middle ground for the new mechanics that come in of interlinks and fusions. As you can see, the UI is relatively busy. And for Xenoblade, that's not exactly what one would call new. In fact, it's been pretty prevalent in these things that Xenoblade is typically very busy with its UI. Particularly with the big elephant in the room, the fact that there's now 6 party members on your screen at once in any fight. Which is great, because there's going to be, at least from what I see here, a lot of focus on multiple enemies. So instead of the 3, you get 6, but for that, they do have to change a few systems, of which will be very important later on. And as you can see from the description here, back attack, side break, Noah is going to be your traditional side-hitting character. As most Xenoblade protagonists are, they are positional glass cannons. They take 2 different areas on the enemy and get their extra effects off by being on the side or back of them, while having your other party members wail on them from any and all directions. Okay, so that's the main thing, looking at the main screen over here. Plus, I think that ring was, I think there was a ring there, if I remember correctly. I did not see a ring, I'm just being dumb. But I do think with the way this system is working, there are going to be attack cancels. The rest of this trailer is going to come up in a little bit, so right now we're going to talk about the more important thing. We have the general main classes of defenders, attackers, and healers. There are probably going to be subclasses in between those, but these are the main 3 that we're focusing on. Defenders being incredibly good at dodging, evading, and attracting enemy attention, taking attacks that their allies don't need to. Attackers and healers are easier targets for the enemies, so defenders are very important. Essentially, these are tanks. There are tanks that you use to go over and you beat up on them. The enemy beats up on these defenders so that the healers and the attackers can actually do their freaking jobs. Attackers are strong damage dealers to enemies. They aim to do large damage by attacking the backs and sides of enemies. While attackers are key to the team's offense, they have a clear weakness in that they're often targeted by enemies. It is important to ensure that you're able to attack from an advanced position while evading the enemy's attacks. So essentially, this one is why the defenders are so important. Since attackers are going to be doing so much damage, you need the defenders to take the aggro off of them so that way they're able to do their job. Relatively simple stuff when it comes to Xenoblade. This kind of structural system has been used for most of Xenoblade's kind, Xenoblade 1, X, 2. But then healers are a wee bit different. Healers are able to recover their HP as well as support offense and defense. They can also revive incapacitated allies. Healers are an important role. Without them, allies' HP will then decrease significantly as they are attacked by an enemy. Basically, healers are able to help and, restore the HP of your allies, of which helps the whole defender attacker role go all around, and is also very important to make sure that they actually stay alive. And they have a few things here, especially with the recovery, that makes healers much more important than in any other Xenoblade game. You have to talk about one more thing here. Well, two more. When you're targeted by an enemy, you'll see a red target line. If the enemy is red, it's a sign that attackers and healers are being targeted. So be cautious. If the line is blue, it means the defender's being targeted, so you're in a good situation. This is awesome, because not only does it tell you who's being targeted, it's not even that thing there. It's not even telling you that you're being targeted. It also tells you who is being targeted. A quality of life change that I feel is drastically good for this system, as you're able to basically tell if someone like Eugene or Lance are in the same area and you see it as red, that means you know you have to drag some more aggro from the enemy as Eugene is getting hit. And with it being, 6 people instead of just the, normal 3, it kind of helps take focus that, you have this target line, so it helps people easily more focus in on this new combat system, since they're going to be like 7 party members at one time. Actually, if I remember correctly, there can be like 8 as far as the trailer was concerned, but they count it as like a 7th party member, so typically it's about 7. Attackers do great damage on the side or back of enemies. However, when you target an enemy or in a pinch, it's important to reposition near a defender to gain protection. It's important to be positioned based on these 3 roles in situation to attack. The chart roughly translates to the red circle being the enemy, Noah saying to take the chance at the attacking the side, as Noah is an attacker, so they are repositioning. Lance says collect enemies and attract their attacks. Eugene heals attackers and defenders. And this is something else too. This tells us one thing that's important. Lance's arts are positioned based on where he is. He cannot send a shield over to Noah. Noah has to be by him to get this shield, which is important because they're really emphasizing this positional aspect. You have to take note of where all 6 of your characters are at any given fight in order to win. So it's much less about dealing as much damage as possible and more about where you are. Well, more than it typically is, because that's usually only for attackers. Attackers were mainly the ones that worried about where they were on the battlefield. Meanwhile, healers and defenders didn't have to worry about that as much. Now all 3 classes would have to worry about that. And that's also especially important because of one other thing that I am forgetting. If you press and hold A near an incapacitated ally, they can be revived. This action is specific to healers, so be careful to ensure they are not incapacitated as well. This means that healers are absolutely crucial. Like, insanely so. They are. If you didn't know before, usually, as you've probably seen in Xenoblade streams or any other Xenoblade content, characters can typically revive by taking a piece off the party gauge. There is no party gauge, though. That gauge has been replaced with that chain attack meter on the side. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, reviving actually increases resources. Let me look at this thing, right? Yeah, it actually increases their ultimate arts. So that means that it doesn't really take that many resources to heal someone. well, that means that only the healers on your team get revived. So if all of your healers die, there's a bit of a problem. Meaning you have to defend your healers and make sure the healers are actually healing. Not only themselves, but also other people. So that you can actually stay alive in the fight. And if you die, your healers are your last resort. Another thing that also helps with these is not only that defenders and attackers having positional base attacks, but healers as well. Eugene's art, Healing Circle, has the effect of restoring a ally's HP within a circle. If you're with range, it'll gradually restore your HP. When the attacker's HP is reduced, it's important to get in this circle. Meaning, again, it's not going to use the same kind of healing that Charla or Ricky uses in Xenoblade 1, or the health pots that are more prominent in Xenoblade 2. Albeit it could use some of those. But there are going to be some moves that literally have you have to stand here. If you don't stand here, then you're not getting healed. This reminds me a lot of Healing Circle from Tales, from like the Tales game. Tales of Abyss, Tales of the Rays, Tales of Hysteria, stuff like that. Where they are able to send their healing circles out to a specific area and then they heal you. Except now, it's mostly around Eugene. To be fair, it could move a little bit as Eugene isn't actually in the center of that circle, but still, Noah isn't being healed here. That's the main focus of the point. Now, keep in mind, you can change classes in this game. That's important because let's say you make Noah a healer. That means that you have 3 healers now and 2 other things. And we'll talk about something that is important with that in a sec. There's one other thing that was noted that helps with movement. The quick move. You saw it in the trailer, but I think we could show it again over here. During a quick move, you cannot attack, but you can use to reposition your fallen allies to the side of the enemy. Make good use of it. So let's see over here. There we go. We got a quick movement over there to let him reposition so he can get extra damage. There's also one more thing in that trailer over there that I see. This big slowdown that's happening is also something that seems to help you dictate when you're going to go into launch state. Things like, because from what we've seen in the trailer, the break, topple, launch, and smash combos coming back from Xenoblade 2. So they're not using the daze combo from Xenoblade 1. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some moves that also take advantage of that, so you can also keep that in mind for things on how the enemy is positioned as well as yourself. Overall, making all these systems basically focusing on where you are on a battlefield. But that's not all, because we have one more mechanic that's coming through. And that would be the Ouroboros mechanic. If you aren't aware, the Ouroboros mechanic is where 2 characters fuse. Now, as far as we know, there are 3 for your main party. We've got one for Noah and Mio. We have one for Lance and Sena. And we have one for Eugene and Tyon. Noah and Mio's mainly looking like a sword user, like Noah. It seems like the Keeves characters make the main thing of the sword. Noah's being more attack-based, seemingly. Lance's and Sena's basically being a tank, saying that they're so tanky. And Eugene and Tatyon's becoming an Ouroboros. In this form, one thing they can do is revive all allies who have been incapacitated. So a very theoretical situation could be that you can have someone like Noah as your healer, and then when they die, you can just have Tyon and Eugene become an Ouroboros and then revive everybody. So that way you have your healer back. Of which is essentially a very theorized tactical strategy that's going to be coming up in this game, at least as far as we know. there's a few things about the Auroboros transformation that we need to that I want to discuss. First, the warning symbol on their health bars. Their health bars seems to be gone, basically. For all intents and purposes, as far as I can tell, these guys are now invincible. They don't lose health. They may not even gain health. They're just kind of there on the battlefield. And what they do there is they have it replaced with this overheat gauge. Now, basically, if you let that gauge go up, they overheat, and you either take a lot of damage or just have the transformation dissipate. There isn't really any specific thing that it states, as far as I'm aware. But if once you do more moves with the Ouroboros, it will take more. It will deal more damage to, I guess, essentially have more damage to you, which would be your overdrive system. Essentially, leading it so that you can't stay in that form forever, and you have to deal as much damage as you can, and then split apart. The other thing I want to see is this interlink level. Interlink level, I am not 100% sure how that ups. I think it is when you do more moves as the Ouroboros, the interlink level will up. And at interlink level 3, you can have some of your arts do interesting abilities at certain levels. So as you can see from the trailer, Phantom Slash for interlink level 3 breaks all enemies on the field to allow everyone to do topple arts and stuff. So that way you can get a wide opening and deal even more stuff with your Ouroboros form. Second thing I really wanted to talk about would be the one other thing I don't think has been really addressed yet, and I've been kind of interested in when it comes to killing, that being chain attacks. The chain attacks are amazing things that seem to be able to essentially have you do quite a few different moves at once. They seem to take more from Xenoblade 3 style, where they have all these people in a row basically planning out their attacks, and you have to put them all in, and then it goes into motion. And then there is this other thing called the completion bonus, as far as I can tell. Each of these actions are giving a TP point, of which you can bring to your tactical point. And I assume when a tactical point's complete, then you're able to use, based on whatever composition you have, you're able to use this completion bonus, of which in the trailer states for Tation's and Noah's completion bonus that attacks during the chain attack gain 70% chance to bypass defenses, and then leads to another devastating attack. Yeah, that was the thing there. There is quite a few things we don't 100% know about how the guest characters will work, because you know that Riku and Mana won't be with the party 100% all the time. They're mainly going to be a kind of guest character type deal where you switch out your 7th party member. There is the chain attack meter at the bottom right down there, and I think the more you fill that up, I don't think it fills up during the chain attack damage meter. I think that fills up as you fight with different characters in the main field. But yeah, with that, essentially, that is all the stuff for the combat type analysis stuff that we've been talking about here. How long's it been? Quite a few minutes. Talked about quite a lot, I think. But yeah, there was a lot of news revealed about this combat system, all in like one document. It was crazy.